We will dive right in. Kita akan invite our distinguished panelists. Untuk sesi yang pertama for the transport sector, we have invited four panelists from industry sector, from government, as well as from financial institutions. For the first panelist, I would like to invite Ibu Mayang Sari, Director of Finance Transjakarta. Under her leadership, silakan Bu. Senang bisa ketemu lagi Bu Mayang. Under her leadership, Transjakarta has been spearheading efforts to electrify BRT system in Jakarta. So we look forward to hear insights and progress from Transjakarta, as well as discuss the next steps. Bapak Faris Pranawa, please welcome Pak Faris Pranawa to join us on the stage. Pak Faris Pranawa is Director of Public Financing and Project Development dari PT SMI, PT Sarana Multi Infrastructure. Pak Faris oversees the design and implementation of financing strategies that enable sustainable infrastructure development. Panelis ketiga, Bapak Fedi Alberto from Pertamina Retail. Pak Fedi Alberto is Director of Commercial and Operation PT Pertamina Retail. So Pak Fedi is overseeing the expansion of fuel stations in Indonesia, including the operations as well as the expansion ya Pak ya. Our fourth panelist, please welcome Arthur Nitesen, our old friend. Arthur is Head of Decarbonization Enablement and Partnership at APM Terminal, part of Maersk Group. Arthur leading decarbonization program at APMT and also leading partnership effort to advance electrifications and clean logistics in the port ecosystem. Thank you, Arthur. So, okay. Kita bersama dengan 4 panelis ini, terima kasih Bapak Ibu sudah berkenan untuk hadir. I'm going to use a mix of bahasa Indonesia and bahasa Inggris. Hopefully that's okay with you, the audience. I'll begin with the first questions. I'll begin with Ibu Mayang Sari. Transjakarta has set an ambitious goal to achieve 100% bus electrification by 2030. And currently, 330 buses are electric. This is a significant progress. However, we still have challenges moving forward, especially in electrifying medium and micro buses, the Jaklingko atau angkot dulu namanya ya Bu. And this is challenges because asset ownership structures are unique. It's not owned by Transjakarta, but owned by many cooperatives. And therefore, there is a constraint in terms of financing and scaling. And so the questions, Bu Mayang, how do you see this challenge being addressed and what steps are needed to accelerate the transition?
Okay, thank you, Bu Batari. Good afternoon all. Thank you for coming. And then maybe first of all, my statement is if you are all using Transjakarta, even though it is not the EV, then you will reduce 94% of the emission. So then please use public transport then. And if use the EV bus, then we'll reduce the 99%. Why we left 1% then? So because sometimes everybody will asking what is about the resource of the electric in Jakarta. So then, but it is beyond Transjakarta control. So then the ambition actually is based on the governor decision in 2022 that all of the Transjakarta vehicle on the 2030 must be all 100% in electric. And by the 2027 should be at least 50%. So then the problem, I've already stated that we are running with the 23 operators. Not all is a big operator, has maybe the health, financial, and maybe have a good balance sheet. So then maybe half of our operator is a cooperative. Is a cooperative, maybe Pak Faris. So then we have to have the another point of view and maybe the approach, different approach for the cooperative. So the Transjakarta that now is already done is we give the long-term contract to the operator, 7 to 10 years, and now it's becoming started the 10 years. So then hopefully with the contract from the Transjakarta, so the operator can get the better interest rate. Because when we are managing the risk, then the financial institution usually will asking, what is your baseline? So what is the contract? And then hopefully it is improve the bankability of our operators. And second is like many of the risk division asking from the financial institution is what is the electric vehicle? Mostly I think we all must be learning about the electric vehicle because the question is why the price is so high, sometimes it's 2 times or 2.5 times from the ICE, and how is your managing the risk, etc. And the latest is how you managing the waste, the battery waste. So until now, maybe somebody, maybe Pak Roy from the Ministry of Environment, there is no regulation actually for the battery waste management. So many theory maybe, but in Indonesia currently there is no. And this is we have the question from the bank, from the financial institution, and hopefully there will be for the regulation of that. And another is we would like to have an access also from the foreign loan, maybe like a blended financing. But because Transjakarta get a revenue in rupiah, so then we will use Indonesia financial institution as a channeling because we don't have maybe ability to managing the currency risk for that. So and for the microtrans, you see in Jakarta we call it Jaklingko, and Jaklingko actually is a feeder for the basis. So then with the coverage area of the Transjakarta currently in Jakarta is already 91.7%, and you can find the Jaklingko or microtrans at least 500 meters from your home. So then from the 10,000 vehicle that we must convert to electric in the 2030, about the 60% is a micro bus. So maybe the 60% of the financing will be for the cooperative. So then the Transjakarta support is we try to make them more transparent, and then they already maybe now issue the financial statement. It is much better than maybe around 7 years ago. And then we together maybe with the financial institution to improve the bankability of the cooperative. So then we have to find the channeling of the financial institution who maybe can support for the cooperative. I think that's it.
Terima kasih Ibu Mayang. karena Bu Mayang juga udah lihat Pak Faris from the financiers, and tadi what Bu Mayang mentioned, one is battery waste management, two is financing support for cooperatives. Also, it's better to be in IDR because there is no to reduce the forest risk, ya Bu ya. So therefore, my first question is to Pak Faris. Pak Faris, with what Bu Mayang Sari mentioned, turning to you, are there specific financing instruments that can support clean transport and clean air initiatives? Are there any examples of blended finance structure or any financing instrument that SME that could be leveraged to finance transport electrification?
Okay, thank you Ibu, and very happy to be here with the distinguished panelists. First of all, our company, let me say that we are really committed to support environmental objectives. Since 2018, we already do a moratorium for coal-fired power plant. So in that sense, we could enhance our climate-related project almost 40% of our portfolio. Our coal-fired projects maybe about 10% now. So we are really eager to support and to achieve environmental target because SDGs are our mission mandated by our shareholders. And therefore, we also established a platform, Ibu, we call it SDG Indonesia One platform, whereby we can provide facilities to project owner, to government, combining concessional loan, grants, and also fund from philanthropy in order to create a blended finance transaction in the project. At least I have 3 examples that I can offer today to support transportation sectors. As an example, Jakarta LRT, we support this project from the early stage, from preparation into financing. So we already have a good portfolio and that matters. With regards to our facility, first, I believe we are the first corporation in Southeast Asia to be accredited in GCF. GCF is a big fund manager, and we are able to to access finance for each facility in amount of 250 million US dollars. So it's quite a big fund, and we can access the fund. But the problem is how to prepare the project to be bankable. But they also provide a project development facilities, and therefore I believe this is a good opportunity, especially in transport sector. So Ibu Mayang, please, I would like to discuss this with you, Ibu, especially how to structure the project. I believe, I do hope that TJ also can access finance directly or through their partners, yeah. That's the first facility. So GCF is a very good facilities that we can access together. The second is also we have a facility from French Development Institution, French Development Bank, and also IDFC. They call it NUCAP. This facility is specifically targeted to subnational government related to urban projects. They also provide a PDF facility, and therefore we think we can help many subnational government in creating or preparing transport project, especially to procure electric bus, if we're talking about these specific sectors. And also we have a facility that could combine, especially with regards to the subnational government, because we understood that the transport project will heavily need some kind of subsidy. So supporting subnational government is an area that we really aspire to do. Nowadays, we already have approximately 100 subnational government, and I believe we can discuss this or turn this aspiration into reality with regards to transportation sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Faris. Very happy to hear that there are existing examples, there are existing facilities that we could potentially explore for Transjakarta. You mentioned also the project preparation, the project structuring is also very important, and we'll get back to that later, Pak Faris. For now, I would like to turn into Arthur for APM Terminals, because I like to highlight electrification of heavy-duty vehicles, electrification of trucks. It's also not an easy task in Indonesia. We know that that's one of the source of air pollution is coming from fossil fuel trucks. And Arthur, since APMT operates globally and has piloted initiatives to reduce emission and improve air quality in logistic and port operations. So we would like to get inspiration from your experiences, particularly around fleet electrifications, electrifying of heavy-duty vehicles or trucks. What can be replicated here in Indonesia?
Thank you, Bu Batari. So APM Terminals is part of Maersk Group. Maersk, you know from the containers and the ships, of course. Our ships have been calling Indonesia for 108 years. And the logistics part of Maersk Group runs 10 warehouses in Java. And I'm part of the part of Maersk that runs ports, container ports. To our great frustration, so we have about 7 container ports in Southeast Asia, including the largest one worldwide, which sits in Tanjung Pelepas, just across the strait. And to our great frustration, we do not yet have a container terminal in Indonesia. So Maersk is active here. We've been here for a long time, but we're very eager to change that. So just this morning, I was in Tanjung Priok with also representatives from PT SME, negotiating with Pelindo to see if we can change that as quickly as possible. If I go back to the speech that Pa Roy gave earlier, I want to express my full support on behalf of Maersk Group for the objective of bringing Indonesia back to the days of Majapahit and Sriwijaya. Both were maritime nations, of course, especially Sriwijaya. So let's bring Indonesia back to the days when Indonesia as a maritime hub for Southeast Asia and the world. But these were also days, of course, when there was no air pollution in the ports in Indonesia. And we as APM Terminals know how to run a port without air pollution. When the famous General Zhang He came with his treasure fleet to Palembang and he offloaded his goods, there was no air pollution involved. So we figured out, as Bu Batari said, how to do that. And the good news is, whenever we invest, so also when we invest in Indonesia, we will bring that technology and those operating systems with us. So there will be a port with no Scope 1 and Scope 2 CO2 emissions and no tailpipe emissions, because these vehicles don't have tailpipes, they're all electric. So how do we do that? We do it by, on the one hand, electrifying everything, so making sure that there's no diesel equipment. At this moment, every container terminal in Indonesia runs on partially electric equipment, but partially also diesel equipment. So even the greenest ports in Indonesia still have terminal trucks that run on diesel. We don't do that anymore. So we're globally busy replacing all of our diesel fleet at the time when it needs to be replaced with electric. And whenever we have a new port, we make it all electric with renewable electricity. Now, the good news is that this is something we could copy-paste immediately to Indonesia. There are really no barriers. This is not something that we only do in Europe or in the US. We opened a new port in Croatia in Europe just 2 weeks ago. We're going to open a new port in Brazil in the early days of 2026. Both are completely net zero. Happy to go into kind of the details of it, but this I think is the larger picture.
Thank you so much, Arthur. But I would like to highlight that if we want to electrify our trucks, as well as the port ecosystem, we could attract investor and partners global like APMT and Mars Group. So there's an opportunity. I think there's an opportunity because I think for global investors and global partners like APMT, net zero, zero air pollution is the key metrics, like one of the objective and one of the requirement, right? So that's, I think, indicating demand, indicating that there is a supportive environment to move toward electrifying trucks and port equipment. We'll dive more into that in the interest of time. I would like also to go to Pak Fedi. Pak Fedi is overseeing SPBU and SPKLU. And tadi from Transjakarta, microbuses, Jaklingko require also a depot management, ya, butuh charging stations, and we like to highlight on Pertamina area to support transport electrification. How do you see Pertamina with managing the largest SPBU or fuel station in Indonesia? How do you see the collaboration opportunities to support the players like of Transjakarta who needs more depot that can also serve as a charging places? Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you. I would like to explain first about Pertamina Retail. We are the subsidiary of Commercial and Trading Subholding of Pertamina Group. So we operate gas station, which is company owned and company operated. So we manage around 180 gas stations spread across Indonesia. And as for now, we already have 15 for the EV charging for four-wheelers and 92 for battery swap station all over in our gas station. So we plan to make our gas station as an integrated energy station, not only selling fuels, but also integrated with EV charging and other consumer needs in energy station. And actually, if we talk about the collaboration between Pertamina Retail and PT Transjakarta, we already did the collaboration as Pertamina Retail provide for the gas fuel for the Transjakarta in some Transjakarta depot, like in Pemuda and Daan Mogot. And I think we can elaborate more if we could extend the collaboration into the EV charging for the Transjakarta. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Fedi. So, Bu Mayang Sari, Pertamina could also be a partner for supporting your transport electrification effort. So, I would like to, I think, go back to Ibu Mayang Sari. I think when we are talking about procuring more electric buses, there is also a challenge of retiring the existing fossil fuel vehicle, the existing internal combustion engine fleets. And how can Transjakarta manage this transition effectively? Are there any frameworks, any models that you are exploring that could be discussed also here? And in the interest of time, we would like to limit it to 2-3 minutes, Ibu.
Okay, so then actually currently, maybe since 2 years ago, we already stopped procuring or maybe has like a operating rental from our operator for the ICE. So all the new contract is for the EV. So then by the 2030, if all maybe changing to the EV, then 97% is already changed to EV. But then also there is a barrier actually, like the initial cost of the EV is much higher, and then also the charging installation. So the charging installation actually is about the 6% of the bus price. So then if we can use we can use maybe the public SPKLU, it is better because if we buy like the electric charging, so then it is only maybe used 1 time or 2 times maybe in a day. But if we use the public, or maybe we can like a Pertamina can provide, they can also use this for another, so then it is more effective. And another maybe the advantage of the electric vehicle is from diesel to electric, actually the energy conversion is more effective, about the 30%. This is our study. And for the maintenance and spare part is also can be reduced. And the contract duration also can be longer. So we hope that the Jakarta government provincial can also be longer the lifetime of the electric vehicle from the 10 years to the 15 years. And maybe we have to know also that for overall, the electric vehicle or the electric buses can reduce about the 6 to 7% of the cost. So then I think it is a good idea to change all to the electric vehicle.
Thank you, Ibu. So from TCO, from total cost perspective, it's lower than
Lower the ICE.
Lower than the
Lower
ICE.
it is about the 6 to 7% from the ICE.
Right. And okay, and actually the charging station is 6% out of the
Of
cost.
the cost of the buses.
Yeah, so if we could
Yeah.
reduce that more, that will be even more.
So it is not only the price, but also for the microtrans,
Yeah.
which is usually owned by the cooperative member, and they don't have maybe ability or maybe financial support to buy also the electric charging, or maybe their electric capacity in their house. Sometimes the microtrans is keep in their garage, so then it is better if we can maybe have a opportunity to have a cooperation for that from the Pertamina.
Thank you, Bu Mayang. I'll like to turn into Arthur again, reflecting to Ibu Mayang points. Also, there's a need for financing support for cooperatives. Also, like policy enablers that Ibu Mayang mentions, like expanding the lifetime of electric vehicle from 10 years to 15 years actually will help as well. And Arthur, from your experience, what financing models, partnership, or policy enablers have proven most effective in unlocking investment for decarbonizations as well as for reducing air pollution?
The very short answer is regulations that make things that just make good business sense mandatory help. I'll say a little bit more about that. The other thing that's really helpful is grants, so government giving grants. But before I go into that, I think it's good to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, which is exactly the picture that Ibu Mayang also painted. Because where we don't need financial support is in the big job of electrifying all this equipment, because we, like Bu Mayang says, we also see that it actually makes good business sense. It's in the money. We see even higher percentages than what you quoted in savings, on maintenance and especially on energy use. We now have globally 52% of our electricity is renewable all over the world. And in all countries except for one, it's cheaper to go renewable than to go coal. So for us, the big picture makes a lot of sense. We are also fortunate to be a very large company. So we still have $20 billion in cash that we earned, by the way, during the pandemic. And I was one of the victims because I moved from Jakarta to Amsterdam and they charged me very high fees for my container. So right now I'm trying to earn this back a little bit but anyway. So we have enough cash as a company and we are able to also access, I think we're AA rated or something. So we're able to access loans at very good rates. So all of that is to say, in these cases, we're really ready to invest and we don't really need much support. But the points where it does help is, so I talked about regulations that make things that make good sense mandatory. One of the things that's a little bit in ports, but in our scope 3, as it's called, is ships that are at berth, right? That are in the port. They still need to run their auxiliary engines and that's actually not only a lot of CO2, it's a lot of air pollution too. You can solve that by installing shore power. So basically having the ship plug in. 80% of our fleet is going to be shore power enabled in 2 years. And right now, our fleet is only plugging in China, in California, and in Morocco. Why? Because it's mandatory in those countries. So make it mandatory, and we'll make sure that the infrastructure is there, and we'll nudge our colleagues in the shipping department that they do this. The second part I wanted to talk about is grants. So what we see is in the US, US and Europe together, we received about $360 million in grants in the past year. This is largely to accelerate replacements. So especially in the US, in California, for example, and in New York, we're accelerating our replacements, just like what Boumaiang said. In Europe, it's mostly to install shore power. And more these facilities are becoming available for Indonesia too. So I'm literally in conversations for grants for an investment in Indonesia. So that's a very attractive way of going there. Yeah.
Thank you, Arthur. So one thing to highlight, fleet electrifications make good business sense. It's no questions, like the TCO, it's more effective, it's cheaper in the long run, like in the total cost of ownership, and regulatory who support businesses and grants as much as possible. We leverage it, especially for those that could breach early investment into fleet electrifications and port operations. And I'd like to move to Pak Fedi again, Pak, since we need to also to talk about Euro 4 fuel standards for a bit, and since we know Pertamina already provide Euro 4 compliant, Pertamina Dex, Pertamina Green, but we know that in the market share, the adoption is low compared to the other alternatives. And what is the strategy, or how do you also tell to the customers that there's a difference between Euro 2 and Euro 4, and you already provided the Euro 4 fuels, and how do you bring that, make sure that the customer know the difference, and what the strategy to increase adoptions of Euro 4 compliance fuel, Pak?
Okay, so it's true that Pertamina already provide a Euro 4 compatible comply fuel. For the gasoline is Pertamax Green 95, it's Euro 4 comply, and for the gas oil is Pertamina Dex, that's also low sulfur fuel for the diesel. But unfortunately, there's also, we have to distribute the PSO, public service obligation, for the gas oil. In this term is solar, but the solar is also now from the government, they mandatory that the solar must be mixed with bio. So we now distribute the 40% B40 biosolar. And for the customer, we also in collaboration with the authorized dealer for the vehicle, that we recommend that the customer need to know what the fuel they must use for their vehicle, such as if you talk about the engine for the modern car, like Mitsubishi and Toyota, Mitsubishi Pajero and Toyota Fortuner, they should use that Pertamina Dex for their vehicle. So, but somehow there's still some customer don't care, they're using their fuel for their vehicle, using the solar, because the price gap is very, very big. For the solar is only almost $7,000 per liter, but Pertamina Dex is almost 16,000 rupiah per liter. So, but we also give our customer education through our social media, through our advertorial, and also through many occasions if we have opportunity to talk with the customer directly. Sometimes I directly go to the gas station and I talk with the customer and tell them about the quality of the fuel. And every opportunity we always try to educate our customer how they used to use the perfect fuel for their vehicle, like that.
Thank you, Pak Fedi. Our friends at Bicara Udara also actively advocate about low sulfur fuel, so some joint forces maybe in terms of consumer awareness, public awareness, Pak Fedi. And I think to close, Pak Faris, since the common thread of today's discussions is the need for more financings. And I know you have SDG Indonesia One that have looked into numbers of ESG metrics, how we can integrate our quality improvement as one of the core impact metrics to basically channel more financing into these efforts.
Yes, thank you, Ibu. Indeed, we have been forefront for the financing of project aligned with SDGs, especially related to climate. In order to push more initiative or more metrics, we at PT SMI do an integrated environmental and social due diligence before we finance any specific project. Now, those environmental risk assessment look pollution prevention, emission intensity, and local air quality implications as matters that we assess and put that mitigation action into the agreement. So we want our client, our partners to follow the best practice of environmental and social risk mitigation. In the future, I believe it's not only CO2, but also matters that directly affect urban health. Yeah, that's the first aspect or know-how how to improve our air quality. The second is we are still in discussing this, but we already try in one of our client. It's a water company in Java, local water company, where we apply a performance-based lending. If our clients success in reaching certain KPI, and then we provide interest rate incentives. So from the due diligence stage and into the loan structure, we try to incentivize our client to perform better, especially related to the air quality. So these two ways are a main action that we will try to apply in our projects. Thank you.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Faris. Masih ada waktu atau tidak atau udah, oke. Mungkin quickly panelists di sini mungkin satu atau dua sentence as a closing statement from each of your organization or institutions. What do you think need to be done more or what you wish to see more happen? What support to accelerate clean air action in the transport sector? Bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Inggris boleh Bu, Pak, but we limit to 1 or 2 sentences as a closing statement. Thank you. Silakan mulai dari Bu Mayang dulu, Bu.
Thank you, Bu Batari. So then, hopefully for the EV electrification of the buses in Jakarta and the Great Jakarta, or maybe in another city in Indonesia, there is a financial support. So also the better understanding of the EV from all of the stakeholder, including the financial support, and also the regulation from not only from the procurement lifetime and also for the waste management. And also maybe I just highlighted that for the EV buses, electrification of the buses is also maybe improve the SGD because the participation of the woman can be improved because it is not greasy anymore. So then, thank you.
Thank you, Ibu. So I believe at PT SMI, we are not just financing projects, but we are financing impact. So in the future, aligning capital inflow with air quality outcomes will play a big part in trying to establish a new generation of infrastructures that make Indonesia cities cleaner, healthier, and more competitive. Thank you.
Okay, as for Pertamina Retail, eagerly to expand more our channel all over Indonesia to install more EV charging in every our gas station, because maybe most of our location for the gas station is strategically located. So that's why we are very eager to expand more about EV charging, but we also need the government support for the standardization, especially for the two-wheelers, for the battery type. Maybe we can use only 1 or 2 type for the battery, so for the investors is cheaper for capital expenditure, like that. Thank you.
I have 2 messages. The first one is accelerate renewable electricity by a lot. And the second is in tenders for new container ports, don't ask for low emissions, ask for no emissions.
Great, thank you. So with that, we close our first panel discussion. Thank you so much.